Hey everybody, Jason Burmis here, and we are going to do a watch-along via the Operation Warp Speed press conference from yesterday, so buckle up because there's really a lot to talk about here. I'm going to give you just my summation of what I saw and why I think that we all need to be concerned. I debated whether I was going to do this on the YouTube platform, but I think it's important to do here, because we're going to just show you what's in the public arena and we're going to make commentary on it. Now, I want to say this. I'm not a doctor. I do intend and am now in touch with Dr. Bartlett, who was treating people in Texas with budesonide. I believe he has a new website called Budesonide Works. And I am going to remain as neutral as possible, but give my opinions throughout this and tell you what I think was good about this press conference, which was very little, okay? What's bad about it, which is the majority of it. And then, seriously, what's terrifying? Because there's a lot to talk about here, okay? From Trump, briefly talking about the election and whoever's going to be in the next administration, to, of course, his bravado about these vaccines and how they would not have been available for a year and a half, 3 years, maybe even 5 years if another administration was the one behind this, okay? And I think I'm going to save a separate video for the comparisons between Andrew Capo Cuomo and Donald Trump on Operation Warp Speed and COVID-19 84 in general, because New York is mentioned prevalently, not only by Trump, but I believe Alex Azar also talks about this. And this is one of the big conundrums. Okay, so this is going to be a long broadcast. I'm going to try to keep quiet at major intervals, but it's going to be hard for me because there's a lot of emotions that run high during a time period that is so uncertain, when a lot of the country is not only locked down, but uncertain about their future. And many of them, in my opinion, are screaming and championing their own enslavement. So this one's going to be a deep one, guys. And, if you're MAGA no matter what, maybe this one's not going to be for you. If you're a realist, I hope that this one's for you. And I want to remind everybody that Whitney Webb has done a tremendous job on Operation Warp Speed. Derek Brose has done a tremendous job on Operation Warp Speed. And so has Ryan Christian, all of the Last American Vagabond, on this issue. And I've interviewed all of them about this issue, okay? So they're in the archives. You can check those out. And I would encourage you to go check out their work because, during this time period, we are very uncertain as to how much longer we'll be able to be on the internet, especially with Bros, Christian being taken off YouTube altogether, okay? So, couldn't do it without you. Thumbs the video up, subscribe and share, join the Burmis Brigade. Lost a tremendous amount of subscribers with my video today, but that happens. Sometimes, people get upset about what you say, but I'm going to keep saying it because I believe it to be the truth, and we can always interact on that. $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. No super chats, obviously, guys. Why? Because we've been demonetized for 7+ months with no real explanation, no videos pointed out, etc. That's why I need you to Rockfin. If you're not signed up for Rockfin, you need to sign up for Rockfin because there's a bunch of exclusives there. In fact, Friday's broadcast is still free. Make that free account, and that's a half an hour exclusive. If you're premium, you'll also get Thursday, which is an hour-long exclusive. Okay, and we do it live at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, free at Rockfin. So if you haven't signed up, do so after the broadcast. All the documentary films are free in the playlist section. Without further ado, guys, let's get to it. Let's have Donald Trump come out here and tell us all about Project Warp Speed. Remember, this is the first time he's come out and publicly addressed the nation after the election.
Thank you very much. Thank you. beautiful out here this time of year. In the past 9 months, my administration has initiated the single greatest mobilization in U.S. history, pioneering, developing, and manufacturing therapies and vaccines in record time, numbers like nobody's seen before. No medical breakthrough of this scope and magnitude has ever been achieved this rapidly, this quickly, and we're very proud of it, and I had tremendous help from the military, generals, admirals, and many of the great people at the White House. Operation Warp Speed is unequaled and unrivaled anywhere in the world, and leaders of other countries have called me to congratulate us on what we've been able to do, and we've helped many countries with their ventilators and all of the problems they were having, and I'd like to congratulate everyone involved in this effort. It's been an incredible effort. As a result of Operation Warp Speed, Pfizer announced on Monday that its China virus vaccine is more than 90% effective. This far exceeds any and all expectations. Nobody thought they'd get to that level.
All right, so let's just stop. I let it run for a little over a minute. Now, this is the bravado I'm talking about. And as I told you, as far as I'm concerned, and this is my opinion based on what? Facts, that if it's Trump, if it's Biden, it doesn't matter who it is. He just said the words Pfizer, okay? Okay, can you imagine? This is from 2009, right? They paid out, I think it was 50 million? 50 million? Yes, 50 million after deaths of Nigerian children in drug trial experiment. Now, that's the experiment. Now, we've already went over the Associated Press and the outbreak of wild polio. To me, I don't care what you tell me. And as far as 90% effective, the efficacy rate, to me, there are others that have looked at those numbers. And obviously, it seems, again, from what I've seen, those numbers are gamed, especially when you're talking about a virus that we've already told there are multiple strains of. That's an authoritative source, okay? Or that it has mutated. Authoritative sources have put that out there. So all of this, to me, is a lot of bravado and grandstanding. But at the same time, I do believe that Trump really did want to reopen the country. And you notice he takes a stab with the China virus. And right now, he's going to take a stab at Pfizer for trying to say that they were not part of Operation Warp Speed, which delves into so much more of the parapolitics of this.
And we have others coming which we think will be at equal level, maybe more if that's possible. In July, my administration reached an agreement with Pfizer to provide $1.95 billion to support the mass manufacturing and distribution of 100 million doses, with the option to purchase a total of 600 million doses shortly thereafter. Our investment will make it possible for the vaccine to be provided by Pfizer free of charge. Pfizer said it wasn't part of Warp Speed, but that turned out to be an unfortunate misrepresentation. They are part. That's why we gave them the $1.95 billion, and it was an unfortunate mistake that they made when they said that. We will work to secure an emergency use authorization, which should be coming down extremely soon, and my administration will then coordinate the distribution of the vaccine, and it will be approved. I think, again, it will be approved very, very quickly, we hope.
So when they talk about Pfizer also, we've had a bunch of different types of vaccines, and a lot of people are concerned about the RNA vaccines, as they should be. Again, I'm not a doctor, but from what I've read about RNA vaccines, it's not something I have put in my body before, and unfortunately, for the predator class, it's not something I ever intend in putting in my body. Okay? Regardless of what you tell me about it. Hopefully that's not harmful content, YouTube. That's just how I feel. I don't know if I'm allowed to have those feelings. Now, if I'm not mistaken, later on, when we have the main medical official behind this whole thing, and I've seen him doing his rounds on the mainstream media, he, I believe, says the Pfizer vaccine is an RNA vaccine, and that is troubling.
The average development timeline for the vaccine, including clinical tests and manufacturing, can take 8 to 12 years. Through Operation Warp Speed, we're doing it in less than 1 year. If you had a different administration with different people, what we've done would have taken, in my opinion, 3, 4, 5 years, and it would have been in the FDA forever. This is 5 times faster than the fastest prior vaccine development in history. 5 times faster. Say it again, 5 times faster. Nobody can believe it, actually. 3 other vaccines are also in the final stages of trial. They'll arrive within a few weeks, and they will also be mass-produced, and the delivery will be very rapid. We're ready to go. The vaccine will be distributed to frontline workers, the elderly, and high-risk Americans immediately. It will be a matter of weeks.
So let's talk about that. When we say a matter of weeks, this could be pre-Christmas. And he talked about 100 million doses out of the gate. Later, I believe they'll say they're ready to give 20 million a month following the initial surge of this thing. First of all, to me, 100 million vaccines in this country seems pretty excessive. And you're expecting about 1 in 3.5 people in the country, 1 in every 3.5 people to take this thing? That is troublesome. That is worrisome. And especially when that is only the beginning. The next thing that is worrisome about this is, you notice what he talked about. Sure, you could talk about the high-risk population of the elderly and them making the decision on whether they want to take it or not. Okay. You're in your 60s, you're in your 70s, you're in your 80s, you've lived your life. As long as they're not threatening to take away your Social Security and you're informed and you want to be given the option of taking it, okay, fine. But frontline workers? Well, that's all age groups, isn't it? And we've already seen what corporations have done via their mask mandates, even in states that do not have them. So the question is, will they mandate their employees to take this vaccine sight unseen? That's the question, isn't it?
Get out very, very much ahead of schedule. Any schedule that I said we're going to be far ahead of that. We know that this virus primarily targets older populations and those with underlying health conditions, while over 99.98% of those under the age of 50 make a full and quick recovery. By giving the vaccine to high-risk individuals right away, we will dramatically reduce hospitalizations and deaths. Case levels are high, but a lot of the case levels are high because of the fact that we have the best testing program anywhere in the world. We've developed the most and the best tests, and we test far more than any other country, so it shows, obviously, more cases.
So let's stop. There's a lot of truth to that, but except for the part about, quote unquote, the best testing. I don't know what the best testing means, okay? When you have Elon Musk, right? Everybody knows about this. We went over it, I believe, in the exclusive broadcast over at Rockfin, that he tested 4 separate times, twice positive, twice negative in the same day. How about this one? Erykah Badu tests positive for COVID-19 in left nostril, negative in the right nostril. So we've already talked about the authoritative sources reporting on what? False positives, especially with the PCR tests, or tests that were way too sensitive and identifying other coronaviruses as so-called COVID-19, right? But not really being COVID-19, or they can't tell you because so many people are asymptomatic. So a lot of what Trump said there was true, except, how can you say we have the best testing? All right. Is there a best testing? I mean, can you say that on YouTube? I guess we'll find out.
By vaccinating the elderly and the high risk, we will effectively end this phase of the pandemic and allow seniors to reclaim their golden years, the golden years of their lives, which is so incredible. And it's about time that they can have those golden years. Again, this process is starting right away. Millions of doses will soon be going out the door. They're all ready, waiting for that final approval. As soon as April, the vaccine will be available to the entire general population, with the exception of places like New York State, where, for political reasons, the governor decided to say, and I don't think it's good politically. I think it's very bad from a health standpoint, but he wants to take his time on the vaccine. He doesn't trust where the vaccine's coming from. These are coming from the greatest companies anywhere in the world, greatest labs in the world.
Now, let's not get it twisted here. If somebody like Rand Paul was expressing their concern about the vaccine and he was being genuine about it, okay, good. I want those type of people to step up. We need more people to skeptically step up. That's a positive, but that's not what Cuomo's doing. No. You see, Trump actually tweeted out a video compilation of Cuomo from March, I think, through April. I don't know if there were any May clips in there, where he's admitting Trump gave him everything he wanted, right? And it is political. When a guy can literally say, and please search this if you've been living under a rock or you're new to the program, Cuomo must have said the facts aren't the facts hundreds of times in the first several months. He doesn't use that line much anymore, but the facts aren't the facts. It gave him carte blanche to say whatever he wanted. And so he was saying that back in April, this is over when a vaccine comes. And he already had the New York State Bar Association say he wanted to mandate it for all New Yorkers, and that wasn't enough, that they want to mandate it throughout the country. Okay, but as soon as Trump was going to have it ready, either in December or January, it all became demonized, and he said he wouldn't recommend it for New Yorkers. Yet, in the same breath, he would show you how he's going to be the first COVID-free state. Now, think about this. New York, by far, was the hardest hit. Almost 20 million people live there, all right? And were exposed. And some people would argue, the reality of herd immunity, especially in the condensed areas of the city and Long Island, is why you've seen so little hospitalizations and deaths there in the last, 6 months of this thing. Really peaked within the first 2.5 months, and that was about it. And then you saw a slow decline to almost nothing on that. Okay? And it went through its cycle. But now, this guy wants a vaccine to reopen, but he also wants it for the entire country, but not under Trump. And Trump's right here. And again, I get trolls all the time trying to say that I'm like a bootlicker for Trump. That's so not the truth. But this is the truth. You can't have it both ways. You can't point out reality. So not only is Cuomo playing politics here, it's right in your face. It's just like when he won't speak out. He stands with Floyd and the protesters in BLM, but he doesn't want you to have bars open past 10 p.m. He doesn't want you to have more than 10 people in your house. He wants to cancel Christmas. Okay? He doesn't want to acknowledge that supposed super spreader events like the Chainsmokers concert that went down in Long Island weren't super spreaders at all. He doesn't want to talk about the massive crowds that were in New York City post-election with Chuck Schumer. Say super spreader event to me again. Say it one more time, mother trucker. Let's continue.
But he doesn't trust the fact that it's this White House, this administration. So we won't be delivering it to New York until we have authorization to do so. And that pains me to say that. This is a very successful, amazing vaccine at 90% and more. But so the Governor Cuomo, will have to let us know when he's ready for it. Otherwise, we can't be delivering it to a state that won't be giving it to its people immediately. And I know the people of New York very well. I know they want it. So the governor will let us know when he's ready. He's had some very bad editorials recently about this statement and what's happened with respect to nursing homes and his handling of nursing homes. And I hope he doesn't handle this as badly as he's handled the nursing homes. But we're ready to provide it as soon as they let us know that they'll actually use it. And again, it's a very safe and a great vaccine. Already we have among the lowest case fatality rates, our country, anywhere in the world, the entire world, and we've performed significantly better than our peer countries. As far as therapeutics are concerned, my administration's also made critical investments in therapies that have helped reduce the mortality rate by 85%. That's, to me, one of the most exciting things. It's incredible, some of the antibody vaccines and others that have come out and have really helped people. 85%. Last month, the FDA approved remdesivir, and we've secured enough remdesivir to treat 850,000 patients. My administration finalized an agreement with Eli Lilly to purchase the first doses of their antibody therapy, which shows amazing results. This treatment will be available completely free of cost to patients. 5,000 units have already been shipped, and many more are going out the door as we speak. We've also reached an agreement with AstraZeneca for the large-scale manufacturing of their antibody treatment, which is excellent. We expect to issue emergency use authorizations for a number of additional treatments in the near future. Tremendous promise, but remember the 85% number. That's an incredible number, but we have some tremendously promising drugs online and ready to come out.
So let's talk about the therapeutics. Now, one could say that's kind of like one of the better things about this press conference, right? He's talking about therapeutics. Now, here's the thing. We know about remdesivir. We have for some time because it's an authoritative source. We know about dextromethasone because it's an authoritative source. The president once talked hydroxychloroquine. He can no longer do so because that's not allowed. Vitamin C, vitamin D, your immune system, maybe you can talk about that. Zithromax, maybe you can talk about that. Z-Pak. Now, other types of steroids outside of dextromethasone, although they're being used, they haven't been authoritatively used. Here's the thing. All those things that aren't authoritative are a lot cheaper than $3,000+ remdesivir or God knows what dextromethasone, right? So the conundrum is this. What are you going to do? They're going to say, well, the vaccine's already free. And you want a treatment? Well, we don't know about these treatments. Or the treatments are going to be there after the fact when the vaccine possibly doesn't work because you can be reinfected as they're selling you on. You know, is it harmful content, YouTube, to ask these things? By the way, almost 600 watching. Can we break 250? Forget about 200 thumbs. Let's get 250 thumbs up here, guys. Again, I'm trying to let him speak at long lengths because there's a lot to absorb here. You know, they're not talking about anything that's going to be cheap as a therapeutic or a treatment. That's problematic. And again, that's one of the good things that are talked about here.
We have ensured that our frontline workers have all the tools they need. My administration's invoked the Defense Production Act and related authorities over 100 times and have made a historic investment into our industrial base. All states that requested PPE from the federal government have received the PPE almost immediately upon request. Every American who needed a ventilator has had access to a ventilator. Think of that. Very complicated piece of equipment, very expensive. And we haven't had one person in this whole country that has requested or needed a ventilator that hasn't had it. Every single request has been immediately filled. So that was something that was a great job. And now we're helping the rest of the world with ventilators because it's a very hard thing. We're producing them thousands of ventilators a month. The federal government has 22,000 beds immediately available for states and jurisdictions that need additional capacity. But we think that it's going to start going down, possibly very quickly. We'll see what happens. But with the vaccine, you'll see numbers going down within a matter of months, and they'll go down very rapidly. As we continue to combat the virus, our economy is rebounding far beyond any expectations. I see the stock market's
before we get
up.
to the economy, because I think it's really important to talk about this as well. When we talk about ventilators, Trump's right. Just like he said with the PPE, nobody really went without. You know, there was a lot of hype. They don't have the right kind of masks. Remember before they were just forcing you to wear any type of mask over your face? It was P43. Because those are the ones that can stop airborne viruses, maybe. Okay? Those masks. But that was dropped. You know, that was a talking point in the first, 3 to 6, 7 weeks in this thing. Before whatever picked up. Okay, so again, Trump tried to go along with what he could, and you could tell he was hesitant to shut down the economy in the very first place. But the pressure just seemed too great, and the propaganda against him, I think, was too great as well. And now he wants to reopen the country, but again, you know how I feel about the vaccine as being the answer. No bueno.
Almost 400 points today again, and It's ready to break the all-time record. Our jobs records are incredible. The job numbers are incredible. In the last 6 months, we've created over 13 million jobs and slashed the unemployment rate by more than half. Last quarter, we witnessed the fastest economic growth ever recorded in the history of our country, 33.1%. It's a number that is more than double our highest. That was in 1952, and we've more than doubled it. The United States experienced the smallest economic contraction and the most rapid economic recovery of any major Western nation. We went down less and we went up more, which is quite a combination of facts. While healthy Americans have gone back to work and to school, we continue to spare no expense to protect the elderly and the vulnerable. According to some estimates, a national lockdown costs $50 billion a day and hundreds of thousands of jobs every single day. Ideally, we won't go to a lockdown. I will not go. This administration will not be going to a lockdown. Hopefully, whatever happens in the future, who knows which administration it will be. I guess time will tell. But I can tell you this administration will not go to a lockdown. There won't be necessity. Lockdowns cost lives, and they cost a lot of problems. The cure cannot be, you got to remember, cannot be worse than the problem itself. And I've said it many times. And when you look at what happens during a lockdown, I just say it very loudly. It's horrible what happens with drugs, alcohol, depression, loss of jobs, business closures. It's a terrible thing.
So obviously I agree with him on everything on those lockdowns. And to me, especially now when the chips are down, right? You know, I've seen a lot of tweets. Now's the best time to pardon Assange and pardon Snowden and do this and do that. Listen, that should have already been done. That shouldn't, fall to whether or not his administration comes in after this, whatever the case can be. I mean, this is the only time he really addresses the quote-unquote next administration, never talks anything else. But what he did do, and what the media has ignored, is that he has said he is not going to lock down the country. He gave numerous reasons why he would not lock down the country. And this is at a time period now where, he'll be out mid to late January, possibly, and most people say probably, or it's definite, they've called it a million ways for him, right? Before the court cases and the calling of these states, et cetera. Or Supreme Court cases. Who knows where this is going to go? Again, we'll have a better idea Monday, but, again, the media has already told you it's over. Him saying this about lockdowns is important to me. He needs to go balls to the wall and basically say federally, you do not need to abide by these, state restrictions that are unconstitutional. Period. Because they are unconstitutional. And, you know as well as I do, Event 201, the Great Reset. They're not, it's not coinkydinks. It's not coincidence. Oh, Jason, there you go again. You're not allowed to put the dots together that are like right next to each other. It's not even really putting the dots together. It's like I go and pick up an old school coloring book that you used to actually, everything's like, and it's numbered and you're connecting the dots. It's not even just like connect the dot. It's numbered. You're going around it and they're connected. Thumbs the video up.
So this administration will not go, under any circumstances, will not go to a lockdown, but will be very vigilant, very careful. We understand the disease. It's a complicated disease, but we understand it very well. We ask all Americans to remain vigilant, especially as the weather gets colder and it becomes more difficult to go outside and to have outside gatherings. And with that, I just want to ask some very talented people to come up and say a few words. General Perna and Dr. Slaoui have been incredible. The general is really getting started right now, but he's really, what we don't know and what people don't know, he started putting this all together 6 months ago, and you're going to see some real action. So, General, maybe you'll start it off, and then, Doctor, you'll go right after that. Thank you very much, and then we're going to finish it off with Mike Pence. Okay? Thank you, please. Thank you, sure.
And, look, Trump doesn't look like his fiery, energetic self. Let's be honest. And that's pretty much it. I mean, he closes it out really quickly and he talks during the thing. But now we're getting to the military personnel. And remember, so much of this has been classified, okay? And it is alarming. This is where we're getting to the utterly terrifying.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hi,
Oh, this
everybody.
isn't the military individual.
So Operation Warp Speed's mission is to...
I thought so. He brings the general. Now, this is the guy making his rounds throughout the media. And he doesn't take his mask off the entire time. Outside, not around people. So you better believe that, when push comes to shove, this guy, if he gets asked about it, even, before the Trump administration is out, he's going to tell you that lockdowns work, and maybe he disagrees with the president. But let's continue.
Enable and accelerate the development of vaccines and therapeutics to help control the COVID-19 pandemic and save lives. On May 15th, almost 6 months ago to the day, we stated the goal of the operation, which was to have vaccines and therapeutics available and approved for use in the US population by the end of the year 2020. We said then that while very challenging, the goal was credible and therefore was worth trying with the best, our best to achieve it. Today, we're almost 6 months later, and I think we can say that significant progress has been made. And while we are not there yet, we are close to the objective. Let me share with you some facts. If I look at the vaccine side, we've selected a portfolio of 6 vaccines using 3 different platform technologies, and we elected to have 2 vaccines from each platform technology. First platform is what's called messenger RNA, and 2 vaccines using that platform were in the portfolio, one by Pfizer and one by Moderna.
So let's stop. These RNA vaccines, let's talk about them really quick. They're not saying specifically whether or not the RNA vaccine by Pfizer is the one they're referring to that will be ready first. So I'm not sure. So I don't want to comment on that. And I'm not sure if Moderna did a non-RNA vaccine. But I can tell you this. In an interview with Bill Gates, it was very apparent that 80% of the people that took the double dose, okay, one vaccine and then a vaccine later of this thing had side effects, including chills, fever, and all the effects that you might have of what? COVID-1984. Now, when Bill Gates was asked about this, he tried, just pain in your arm in most cases. She said, the ones that took the second strong dose, the hot dose, if you will, 100% of them had side effects, okay? So that's authoritative content. I'm just putting it out there. And again, RNA vaccines are something that are brand new to the game and do a lot of different things than other vaccines. Hopefully, YouTube's not going to penalize me for saying that. By the way, let's get it over 300 thumbs. Can we do it? And again, if the RNA Pfizer vaccine is the first one, even more utterly terrifying.
Second platform is using what's called live viral vectors. And we had one vaccine from J&J and one vaccine from AstraZeneca in partnership with Oxford University. And the third platform was the recombinant protein platform with one vaccine from a biotech company here in the US called Novavax and another one from a partnership between Sanofi and GlaxoSmithKline. These vaccines are now, 6 vaccines are all in the clinical development stages, and 4 of them are in phase 3 trials. And of the 4 that are in phase 3 trials, 2 have effectively completed enrollment in the phase 3 trial. And one of the 2 has announced on Monday, to, I think, thrilling information, that they had 90% efficacy. That was the Pfizer vaccine, demonstrating that vaccination is possible against COVID-19, that the kind of choices we have made in terms of the antigen selected was effective and made us optimistic that other vaccine may also be effective.
Now remember, when he's talking about effective here, may be effective. And then notice he says effectively 90% efficacy in these studies. I'm just saying, before you roll your sleeve up, why don't you read how quickly they did these things and what a phase 3 trial means in Operation Warp Speed, okay? as opposed to other vaccines that have been brought out into the public. Okay, they don't match up. It's almost like semantics. Okay, but again, go watch Whitney Webb, go check out Ryan Christian and Derek Brose, and they thoroughly explain that to you.
On Wednesday, the same week, just this Wednesday, Moderna, the other company with the vaccine using similar platform technology, messenger RNA, announced that they have achieved the number of cases in their trial to allow for a first interim analysis, and I would expect that shortly, probably next week, we may hear what I hope to be another very good information regarding an efficacious vaccine. The two other vaccines that are in phase 3 trial that are using the live vector platform, the J&J vaccine and the AstraZeneca vaccine, have recruited already a few thousand subjects in their trials. I would like to take...
He's going to take this opportunity. See, he's already got a few thousand subjects for these trials of the vector vaccine, okay? Now he's going to say, hey, come on in. We want you. Huh? We want you in our trials. Come on in. Let's be buddies.
This opportunity to invite as many Americans as possible who would like to volunteer to participate in these clinical trials, as that's the only way we are able to achieve a demonstration of the safety and the efficacy of these vaccines. The last two vaccines, the recombinant protein vaccines, are planned to start their phase 3 trials within the next few weeks. And while we are developing this vaccine, we haven't only looked at the clinical development, of course, in partnership with the companies that are the sponsors for the vaccine. We also invested very significantly in the manufacturing of this vaccine in such a way as to, when we have the clinical efficacy demonstration with these vaccines, we would also have vaccine doses to be able to immunize the U.S. population.
The U.S. population. Okay? Now, a little later on, he is going to talk about therapeutics, but you can tell where his tilt is, that it's obviously pro-vaccine over therapeutics, as he is wearing a blue diaper mask outside at a press conference where he is no longer near anybody.
So the two vaccines that are completing their phase 3 trial are likely to be filing their files with the FDA for a potential emergency use authorization within the next few weeks. And hopefully, if approved, they could be used for immunization in the US population in the month of December. And we plan to have enough vaccine doses available for use in the US population to immunize about 20 million individuals in the month of December.
So I misspoke earlier. I said 100 million in the beginning and then 20 million a month. I apologize. It is 20 million in the beginning and then 20 million a month after.
And another 25 to 30 million per month on an ongoing basis from there on. And as of the month of February or March, if we have more vaccines approved, such as the live vectored vaccine, we may be able to immunize a larger number of Americans on an ongoing basis per month.
Just the fact that at the end of the day, they want you to take a vaccine that's going to be multiple times, okay? And it's not even going to be uniform. That there's going to be, then we're going to be able to look, Jason, and find out which one worked the best and which one had the least side effects with this group or that group or this group. It's like, I'm sorry. I'm not your fucking petri dish. Okay? I'm not. And you shouldn't be either. This is insanity. Insanity. I believe Trump said it earlier, or maybe he says it a little bit later. I think he said it earlier. If you're under 50 years old, under 50, okay? And again, this is Donnie Boy says it, 99.98% likely to recover. That's a 0.02%. And when we talked about ventilators, let's not forget, not only did everybody get a ventilator, but they were misused in the beginning. And it was Dr. Whistleblowers that came out a week and a half, 2 weeks into them really being used and saying, these are killing 80% of the people on them. 80% of the people going on a ventilator don't come off one.
Operation Warp Speed didn't only focus on vaccines. We also looked at therapeutics, and we have worked with a number of companies developing monoclonal antibodies, in particular, that are able to neutralize the virus. As Mr. President said, we have announced partnerships with Eli Lilly, with Regeneron, and with AstraZeneca. And on Monday, Eli Lilly's monoclonal antibody was granted an emergency use authorization to treat patients that are infected and at risk of hospitalization. The Regeneron monoclonal antibodies have been also filed for emergency use authorization, which is currently under review and is potentially reaching approval within the next few weeks. And finally, AstraZeneca just in the last few days has received a green light to start 2 large phase 3 trials with their monoclonal antibodies supported by Operation Warp Speed to prevent the acquisition of COVID-19 disease in very frail subjects or in very high-risk subjects as a protective alternative to a vaccine.
So you notice how I kind of slid that in there? Oh, by the way, we do have some preventatives. They were calling them prophylactics, and they were asking whether or not HCQ back in the day could have been a prophylactic in this. But again, HCQ is cheap. You think any of these therapeutics are going to be cheap?
So, potentially 2 vaccines and 2 therapeutics may be granted an emergency use authorization before the end of this year. I think it's a remarkable achievement within a period of 6 to 7 months. It is important to note that this progress has been achieved without any political interference. I said it many times. And at every step has been and is being judged by independent expert bodies.
I'm very weary of independent expert bodies that are unaccountable, and they just get to be called independent expert bodies. Who are the experts? Are they criminally accountable for lying to us? Who appointed them to their positions of experts? Do they work for or with these companies? Do they work for or with the government? How do they politically align? There's a lot of questions here. And you could tell me it's not political, Baldy, but the Cuomo-Trump clash tells me otherwise. I left New York State, remember?
Whether it's when the FDA grants the green light to go into clinical trials, or whether when the data safety monitoring boards review the safety of the studies on an ongoing basis and sometimes put them on hold, as I'm sure you have witnessed with the AstraZeneca vaccine, for instance. And these same data safety monitoring boards are the independent boards of experts that analyze the efficacy of the vaccines and the safety of the vaccines and tell the companies whether they should progress with the filing of an emergency use authorization or not. So it's not the companies, it's not Operation Warp Speed, it's not the US government, it is independent experts that assess the safety and the efficacy of the vaccines that are being tested. And when the FDA will review these vaccines and these therapeutics, they will also have the advice, public advice, from boards. One of them is called the VRPAC, that is the advisory board to the FDA for vaccine reviews. After review of the data, transparently and available to everybody to look into, before the FDA then make its decision to either authorize a vaccine or not authorize it.
Yeah, am I going to get to see that? Are we all going to get to review that? Because from what I've seen, what has been released via Operation Warp Speed, a military-like operation involving the military, aka in a place called reality, a military operation. I've seen a lot of censorship. I've seen a lot of blacked out pages. I've seen a lot of spin there, Doc. So I don't know that these independent experts get to see stuff that I don't get to see, that I'm too happy about that, Snappy.
On that basis, I personally feel very comfortable to say that the vaccines and the therapeutics that we have helped develop and accelerate will be judged independently, and if approved, should be used by all in the population.
And there it is. Should be used by all in the population. Now, I'll say this. As utterly terrifying as that is, at least he threw therapeutics in there. Okay, used by all in the population. Well, we got 740 people watching, and I'm not sure any of you want to use it in your population. So thumbs the video up. Don't thumbs it down. Thumbs down, Baldy McBald liar pants here. Like we're just, again, we're supposed to trust shadow groups within big pharma and the military, and then they're independent experts and an FDA that's never been corrupt, right? Just like there's never been voter fraud. And just go, you got it, buddy. Show wing. Love it.
Because I believe vaccination is likely to be the cornerstone among all the other measures that we have to take to help us really control this pandemic.
Cornerstone.
I will now pass to my co-leader, General Perna, who will tell you more about the support that the operation has provided to manufacturing of the vaccine and also to their distribution. Thank you very much.
So here's the military.
Mr. President, thank you for allowing me to continue service of our great nation as the co-leader with Dr. Moncef Slaoui on this mission. Let me start by emphasizing for me, what is Operational Warp Speed about? It is about saving lives. And it is a Herculean task that the President put us on many months ago. And as Dr. Slaoui just laid out, we are making steady progress and we are ready to execute.
And by the way, this is the guy that says, you know, once they have it, what are you going to do? I'm going to say the word execute. Isn't it nice that we get to use a word like execute when it comes to this type of program? Now, don't get me wrong. You know, I've run a program, an executable, in my day, and I get it. But is anybody else feeling a little bit of irony when they hear the word execute?
Through the whole of American approach, we have leveraged the best of nation in federal government, local, states, industry, and academia to expand the capacity and capability to achieve our mission. It has been powerful. We have capitalized on the best contracting, logistics, and planning experts available to synchronize and integrate all phases of the operation, from development of the vaccine, manufacturing of the vaccine, and finally distribution of the vaccine.
So there you go. I mean, you're from top to bottom involved in this process. Top to bottom. Powerful. Execute.
6 months ago, the capacity did not exist in our nation's pharmaceutical production base. We went to work building brick and mortar manufacturing facilities, bringing in the right specialized machinery and equipment, and prioritizing supply chain materials through the Defense Production Act.
So you ask yourself, you know, when I was talking about the Defense Production Act all the way in the beginning of this thing, I was more worried about what? The ventilators, right? And then the PPE and the different types of equipment. And if they did really strict lockdowns that civilians might have to work in these facilities, when, again, it's a toned down version of that, I guess a watered down version of that. But at the same time, you have the military building facilities for big pharma to do testing.
Today, we expect to have tens of millions of doses immediately following EUA, and we will distribute them as soon as the FDA applies the EUA. We will do that within 24 hours of the EUA. We are harnessing the strength of commercial industry and the existing vaccine delivery capabilities and infrastructure. Our nation deserves this. Vaccines will be allocated pro rata by population so that we ensure fair and equitable across. We need the states who are part of the planning to accept the vaccine.
Now, again, this is where I need somebody like a Rand Paul to come out against this, okay? But instead, You have Andrew Capo Cuomo coming out against this in a faux manner. Again, in almost a Orwellian, hermetic seal type manner, right? Like, as above, so below. No, we're not going to take no Trump vaccine, no. But mandatory for everybody in my state, and if we have our way, mandatory for everybody in the country, as we've put it on paper through the New York State Bar Association. The upside down is here.
We are working closely along with the CDC, the 64 jurisdictions and states to ensure vaccine can safely and quickly get to those who need it first. And then we have plans to ensure that it spreads exponentially across our country and that no place is left without a vaccine. At the end of the day, our success is going to be judged by the availability of the vaccine as shots go in arms.
As shots go in arms. Lovely. Powerful. Execute. As shots go in arms.
It is the partnerships we have formed with the pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer and Moderna, distribution companies like McKesson, FedEx, and UPS, and pharmacies like CVS and Walgreens that have agreed to do things differently, to think, how can we get this to the American people in the most rapid and expeditious way? We will be successful because of this all of America approach, this collaboration, this effort that everybody is leading towards. I will end where I started. This is about saving lives, the lives of the great American people. And we will not rest until we are successful and that we have irreversible momentum to returning our nation back to normal. Thank you.
Irreversible momentum to returning the nation back to normal. We could turn the nation back to normal tomorrow if we really wanted to, couldn't we? Aren't the therapeutics there? Haven't we already seen them?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, General, very much. Great job. Alex, please.
Thank you, Mr. President, for providing the leadership that's gotten us where we are today. The success that Operation Warp Speed has realized so far has been made possible only because of the bold vision you announced not even 6 months ago, right here in the Rose Garden. To highlight 3 of the remarkable accomplishments we've seen just this week. First, Pfizer announced very promising data on its vaccine candidate. Second, the FDA authorized and we have begun to distribute and administer Eli Lilly's monoclonal antibody to help Americans at risk for serious disease stay out of the hospital.
So again, this is a prophylactic, a preventative already being distributed. Now, my question to you is, why in the world, isn't something like this more readily available and cheap?
Third, another vaccine company, Moderna, announced that it's reached a critical clinical trial milestone, meaning we may see data from them within days. Back in the spring, we were told by all of the experts that a vaccine was a year or a year and a half away, and the announcements I just highlighted would have been unthinkable. The President said that's not acceptable, and thanks to the support he's provided, we're now on track to deliver a safe and effective vaccine to our most vulnerable this year. As I worked with the President to assemble this team and organize this effort, his support was indispensable at each step of the way. We went out and found the very best people on the planet to do the job, who you just talked with. Dr. Slaoui, the world's most successful vaccine developer. General Perna, one of the world's most qualified logistics leaders. When I first talked to Dr. Slaoui and General Perna about our goals and recruited them to this effort, we dreamed of being at the point we're at today, on track to achieve the incredibly ambitious goal we set together. The President gave us the full financial support we needed, enabling us to invest more than $10 billion to de-risk vaccine companies' development efforts.
De-risk. $10 billion. Military, start to finish.
And manufacture product in advance. Our completely unprecedented partnership with the Defense Department has given us a comprehensive public-private plan for distribution and helped each Operation Warp Speed vaccine maker secure what they needed for manufacturing, including Pfizer's ongoing production this week. Operation Warp Speed has always had one goal: saving lives. The President has given OWS the independence it needs to achieve that goal and ensured that we're following the procedures that Americans expect for any medical product they take. At every step, ensuring patient safety has been our top priority. This process has been driven solely by science and data. So it's a shame that some, one example being the governor of New York, have actually injected politics into the process and suggested the possibility of intentionally delaying access to an FDA-authorized vaccine.
And again, you know, I may not agree with the science and data part, but I do agree that Cuomo's being completely disingenuous, totally making this political, and again, further shining a light on the hoax factor of this thing. It's not that COVID-1984 is a hoax. Remember, you had CCP members saying, we think this is a U.S. bioweapon. You had people within the Iranian regime, after a bunch of them were wiped out, saying, we think this is a bioweapon. Okay? You got Mike Pompeo saying, we think it was manufactured in Wuhan, and we're going to present information on that. You got a Nobel laureate talking about the HIV insert and how he thinks it was manufactured in a lab, only as a possible vaccine for HIV. There's so much out there, right? But the bottom line is, the facts aren't the facts when it comes to Andrew Capo Cuomo. And when we are exposing the hoax factors there, it's that guy just saying the facts aren't the facts. Lock down this. Yeah, protests are okay, but these protests aren't okay. Just nonsense. He's on. When he went after the Hasidic Jewish community in Brooklyn, a bunch of them taped their private conversations with him where he's talking about the response being fear-based and not scientifically based. Where was that in the mainstream fucking media? Nowhere. Nowhere. So there are so many angles of deception to this whole thing. It's very, very aggravating, obviously.
Which is simply unconscionable. Because the President has delivered the full funding we need, the best people on the planet, and real independence for this project, Operation Warp Speed is doing something that's never been done before in history. This success means there is light at the end of the tunnel. Right now is not the time to let our guard down. We continue to encourage Americans to follow the 3 W's. Wash your hands, watch your distance, wear a mask when you can't watch your distance, and avoid settings where you can't do those things.
How about no? How about I wash my hands and my body like a regular human being because I believe in hygiene? Stop telling me to stay away from other people. Stop telling me to wear a mask. Stop using the fucking term social distance because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it like super spreader. And that's how I feel. And I should be able to feel that way. Okay? Can I feel that way, YouTube, or is that harmful content?
Because of the incredible American spirit, because of what great scientists and public servants and innovators have done through Operation Warp Speed, we have such a bright future ahead of us. If we continue to protect ourselves, our families, and our communities, then I firmly believe that future will be here very soon. Thank you, Mr. President, for making that very bright future possible for the American people.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. Mike Pence, please.
And Pence, to his credit, is probably like the least threatening.
Thank you, Mr. President. And on behalf of the White House Coronavirus Task Force, I was grateful to just have a few minutes today to commend the team of Operation Warp Speed. It was your vision that we could harness the ingenuity and the creativity of America's greatest pharmaceutical and research companies to speed in record time a vaccine that would save American lives. You told the American people that we would have a vaccine before the end of the year, and some scoffed at that timetable. But I can tell you the team on Operation Warp Speed didn't. These great research companies didn't. And as you've articulated here, Mr. President, the American people can be comforted with all the news this week that help is on the way, that literally pending FDA approval, of the Pfizer vaccine, and perhaps very soon, another vaccine that will be submitted by Moderna and even other companies that before the year is out, we'll be able to administer a vaccine to tens of millions of Americans, as you've said, Mr. President, beginning with those most vulnerable, beginning with our seniors all across this country, beginning with our healthcare workers and first responders at the point of the need.
So now, again, remember, he was talking about frontline workers, and that's pretty much anybody that works at one of these, socially acceptable places, okay? But now, he's added in there. Health workers, you think the military is going to have to take it? You think the military is going to be forced to take a military-provided vaccine? Again, the only good thing about this whole thing, and I wish they had rolled out Tony Atlas again, or Scott Atlas. I don't know why I called him Tony Atlas. Tony Atlas, famous other person. But Scott Atlas again, to ensure, because nobody said this thing was going to be voluntary at any point in this. The only good thing was Trump speaking out against the lockdowns and the calling out of Cuomo's hypocrisy. Other than this, so, if you were snackling on some popcorn for a horror film, this is a lot scarier than the latest, Friday the 13th picture, which, I didn't think the remake was that bad. I hope they give it another go. Or anything of the like.
It is an unprecedented medical mobilization, the greatest in the history of our country, and I join you in commending this team. Let me also say, Mr. President, that the White House Coronavirus Task Force will be meeting with our nation's governors in our regular conference call this Monday. We'll be reviewing with them the progress on the development of a vaccine, our plans for distribution, but we'll also be reviewing each and every state's specific plans for distributing the vaccine. Continue to urge governors to have those plans developed and prepared and ready for immediate implementation. And finally, Mr. President, as we see cases rising around the country, as we see hospitalizations rising around the country, I want to encourage the American people with the news that as we have done from the very beginning, we're going to continue to move heaven and earth to make sure that your family has access to the level of health care that we'd want any one of our members of our family to have. I spoke to FEMA today, and as we heard reported at our last task force meeting, Mr. President, we're receiving requests from states for PPE, for personnel, but we're meeting all of those requests. And according to our team on the ground, we continue to believe that we'll be able to meet the requests for PPE and equipment, both from the Strategic National Stockpile, also from the commercial market, to make sure that those needs are all met. And the American people can also be confident because of the system that you established that since this past July, we're actually able to track PPE, gowns and gloves and N95 masks on a hospital-by-hospital basis.
See, I misspoke earlier again. I said P35 and it was P95 or N95. What was it, N95 and I was saying P35? My God. I'm sorry, folks. See, that's how imperfect I am. But unfortunately, I think I make sense or better sense than 99% of the pundits out there. Maybe you disagree. But it shows we're all human. We get things wrong. So I didn't just scoff at it and like, man, my brain needs to get better. That was only several months ago. I should have nailed that. But to my point, when you see this in him talking about it, again, any type of PPE has been given. Any type of makeshift facility that they wanted in the beginning that they said was impossible was given to them. None of it was enough. So don't expect the fact that we have a vaccine and therapeutics to be enough. Even if you roll up your sleeve like, Sally Slave, and you're just like, yep, sure, boop, sure. Because I'm going, no. I'm doing my best, Leslie. No. Hopefully I'm going to be a little more gutsy than Leslie from 60 Minutes, and I won't be gaslighting anybody. And this isn't harmful content, but I guess you never know in 2020.
So we can continue to deliver, as you said, Mr. President, on that extraordinary record in America where no American who's ever required a ventilator has ever been denied a ventilator. No American who's ever required an ICU bed has ever been denied an ICU bed. So the good news today through Operation Warp Speed, Mr. President, is help is on the way. It's on the way right around the corner. As one of the members of our task force said recently, the cavalry is coming. but we want to encourage every American that we're going to continue to make sure that our healthcare system has the resources to support the equipment and supplies that they need. And we also, Mr. President, as we see cases rising, particularly in the heartland of this country, but in communities all across America, we encourage every American, as the Secretary did and as you have, continue to practice good hygiene, wash your hands, practice social distancing, wear a mask when that's not possible. We all have a role to play. We all know what to do to protect the vulnerable, to look after our families and our neighbors and friends. And we encourage every American, with all the good news this week, to continue to be persistent in putting the health of yourself, your family, your neighbors, coworkers, and friends first. And we'll get through this, and we'll get through this together. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
So I think that Trump comes up really quickly and just says something quick, and then everybody just starts shouting him down. And it's all about the election. When are you going to admit you're a loser? When are you going to admit you're a loser, Trump? I mean, forget about even an attempt about a question about the warp speed and COVID 1984 and caring about the virus and the fact a bunch of people are sitting 6 to 10 feet away from each other and wearing masks outside like slaves. Forget about those questions. When are you going to admit you're a loser, freak?
And thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
When you said you lost the election, sir.
I mean, God. Oh, to kind of surmise everything, guys, you know, this is a military op. We don't know everything about it. I'm remaining extremely skeptical about all of it. The only thing that was somewhat assuring is that Trump said he wasn't going to lock you down, but we know that ain't planned for Zombie Joe. And didn't, give me thrills that no one ever said this wasn't going to be mandatory. It didn't give me thrills that the therapeutics were kind of a side thought. They weren't the cornerstone. Didn't like the terms execute and shots in the arm. Just me, I guess. I don't know. Can we get 500 thumbs before we get rid of the broadcast and go to bed on this late night COVID 1984 broadcast here? And by the way, guys, again, remember, I'm a documentary filmmaker. All the docs are free. Please check out Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, and Shade the Motion Picture. They're really so relevant to what's going on right now. Okay? Fabled Enemies, Loose Change. If you don't know about 9/11, that gives you a better idea that fake news isn't a new thing. It's been going on for some time. Okay? Fake news, propaganda, not new. The media being controlled, not new. Are we at a different level right now? You bet we are. Guys, $5, $10, $15, it means the world to me. Big donors. Couldn't do it without you. Again, there was no one able to give a super chat tonight because we've been demonetized for 7+ months. Okay? 7+ months. 6+ months ago, we did it live. We reviewed the channel. We were never given a strike or told what was harmful content or what was borderline content. And the bottom line is, we're going to tell the truth here no matter what. We get something wrong, we admit it. So for all those that have supported me this month, we're actually almost on pace to make the goal. Not quite, but who knows? It's only the 15th today at 12:53 in the morning, so maybe we have a good day and night, and maybe we are on pace to make that goal. And I haven't done that in months, but I would love to do it. Make the free account over at Rockfin, okay? Go check out Friday's broadcast. Please go make that free account. If they kick me off this platform, that's the one I'm going to be on, okay? And we're doing it live Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern time. It's up free all day. So even with the free account, you get to see stuff that you're not going to see on YouTube. That's a promise. And if you go premium, right, through anybody, because it's like a Netflix for creators, you get everything. You get all the archives. Guys, I absolutely love you. Thanks again for watching. Join the Burmese Brigade. Thumbs it up on the way out. If you're not subscribed, now's the time to hit that button. It's not about left or right, especially this time. It's about right and wrong and saying no.